Welcome to the South Texas Business Podcast, hosted by SoTx Board Chair Connie Gonzalez, recorded live before a studio audience at Brooks.
Recognize the councilwoman for the district in which we are enjoying today's lunch, District 3 Councilwoman Ms. Phyllis Viagran. I am going to spend some time reading the committees because that's part of what's so important about their work and making sure that we, the people in this room, are engaged and recognize what committees they're focused on and how we can help them, support them, and best utilize them. And so Councilwoman Viagran does serve as a member of the Economic and Workforce Development Committee, the Public Safety Committee, the Planning and Community Development Committee, the Community Environment and Culture Committee, and the San Antonio Housing Trust Public Facility Corporations. She is a proud District 3 resident, born and raised right here in San Antonio. Yes, ma'am.
You forgot the Visit San Antonio board.
Silly me, the very first table. She is also and continues to serve on the board of directors for Visit San Antonio. Another round of applause for our very front row table. She attended Providence High School and earned her BA majoring in political science and history from Texas Tech University. Anyone from Providence? You're special. You're special. Texas Tech University. All right. And she did later earn her master's degree in bicultural studies from UTSA, and I know we have a lot of UTSA Roadrunners. And then a couple of fun facts that I did. If you don't know, my first career was in news. I was a reporter and anchor. And so I did a little bit of stalking to figure out some fun facts about each of our councilwomen today. Phyllis Viagran has donated over a gallon of blood through the South Texas Blood and Tissue Center. If you have not given blood, please do so. And then a little lighthearted fun facts about her. Clearly, I need to get her on a trivia night because she's watched every Hallmark movie, black and white movie through the 50s. And it's not just movies, she loves musicals. And so as she travels the world, New York City, Chicago, London, and some in San Antonio, watching Hamilton in every single city, I'm sure that she's taking notes in all of these cities on what we can implement here in San Antonio. Another round of applause for Councilwoman Phyllis Viagran. Next up, we have our neighbor, District 4 Councilwoman Dr. Adriana Rocha Garcia. Born, raised San Antonio, calls Southwest San Antonio home, has a passion for working with organizations that focus and help San Antonio's most underrepresented demographics. She was raised in a Spanish-speaking household to parents with first and second grade Mexican education and became the first in her family to earn a college degree, which she earned her bachelor's from UIW. And then shortly after, she did earn her master's degree and then went on to be the doctora from UT Austin. Fun facts about Dr. Garcia, also traveling the world, this time in sports. She has visited every single Major League Baseball stadium. So we're going to, and that's in your district here, and so we're going to, see how we can enhance our baseball stadium here. I know you took notes. And she's also on Team Phyllis Viagran with Trivia Night, and so I think we have our Trivia Night group here when it comes to movies and different musicals. Another round of applause for Councilwoman Dr. Adriana Rocha Garcia. And our final special guest of this evening, our other neighbor, District 5 Councilwoman Ms. Teri Castillo. By core, Councilwoman is a community organizer and historian of urban policy, and she was elected to represent San Antonio's District 5. She is the proud daughter of a United States Navy veteran. Any Navy veterans in the audience? Also special father of yours. She's a lifelong generational resident of District 5 and has committed to ensure our public money works for us, the people of San Antonio. She is a graduate of Burbank High School, earned her bachelor's degree from UTSA, and completed her clinical teaching at Fox-Tex High School, not too far from us. Her fun facts of the day, she's like, uh-oh. Holidays are coming up. Please join Councilwoman Teri Castillo to shop local and thrift shop. I am horrible at thrift shopping, so count me in. And then, of course, she is a pet lover. I hope you visit our dog park here at Brooks. She loves her 2 dogs, Bam Bam and Pebbles. That's our first all, Councilwoman. So I'm honored to join y'all. It is really awesome to see the makeup of our city council here in San Antonio and how the voters have chosen to vote, who their leaders are. Strong women, passionate women, like I said, and really are focused always first and foremost on what matters, and that's the people of San Antonio. So thank you for their commitment to that. We just came off of your summer. Usually July means the city of San Antonio takes some time off. I see that y'all have traveled a lot. I'm going to go around and I'll start with Councilwoman Castillo. What were you able to accomplish? What fun stuff were you able to do over the summer? And maybe some new things that you saw that you're learning and bringing back to San Antonio.
Yes. So a couple of things that we note over the summer was, can you hear me now? No. So several things that our District 5 office did over the summer was survey District 5 residents on what their priorities were. And as always, we know that it's primarily infrastructure investment, and pointing to the fact that infrastructure, streets, sidewalks, and drainage is small business and business investment, right? For a district like mine, it encourages walkability, it encourages safety, and then you have that traffic to go in and out of our businesses. Where we traveled to learn about some different models was Denver for the Local Progress Conference, and we learned about mobility, walkability, and I had never really seen San Antonio as inaccessible because I had relied on public transportation till I went to Denver and I didn't have to worry about getting hit by a car. So those are a couple of priorities, right? Ensuring that we're connecting all the pieces of the city. Really excited to see the North and South corridor and potentially secure funding for the East and West, because that's going to be so vital for San Antonio's economy, right? Just not the overall health for our constituents, but ensuring that we're encouraging folks to get from business A to business B, right? And that it's super accessible. So that's a couple of things that we did over the summer, but I could go on and on what we did.
Councilwoman Garcia, same question. How were you able to mix work and play over the summer?
Well, I took a 4-day vacation, and we went to Guadalajara, and I specifically went to to Jalisco, and I specifically went to tequila. Sorry, I don't know why I said Guadalajara, because that's my next one. But I did. But I did go to tequila, and so I need every single one of you, because what can we do to improve our city? And I know one of the next questions is related to food. Anyone who has Chef Johnny's phone number, please text him right now and encourage him to please take the councilwoman's recommendation to have agave enchiladas at his next restaurant, because those are the best thing ever. So when we think in terms of what we can improve, that was the fun thing. But the other thing, I thought that there was a lot of art, and there's just, I think, a whole opportunity that we have to incorporate art into our public spaces. I think that it's missing. It has been missing for a while, and as I keep traveling, that's the one thing that I think San Antonio has fallen far behind on, and art as an expression of our culture, but also of our healing. So that's the one thing that I did, so highly recommend it.
Thank you. So, before the July vacation, I was with Visit San Antonio at IPW in Orlando, and Visit San Antonio was my former employers before the pandemic, and Amanda Garcia she's a resident and my former boss, and she's sitting there. So I went with them. We went to Orlando. We will be having IPW next year here in San Antonio, which is a great opportunity that I hope you learn more about. So I thought, what better way to spend my vacation than visiting the, not just the tourism spot in the United States, but the convention spot. So I went to Las Vegas. And I didn't win money, as y'all can tell. But I did go to Las Vegas and just come back to what they're doing in the hospitality industry, how they're greeting groups and how they're having people there. Very much is a tourist town, and that is one portion of who we are here in San Antonio. So that was something that we got to do. And then my staff was here, and a couple of my staff are here. Addie and Sal are here, and they worked the entire summer. So, and planning for the August back to school rush. So that's what we did.
So we talked a little about restaurants. You talked about Johnny Hernandez, and so I do want to put a quick plug. I hope that many of you passed the new La Gloria. We're counting down the days for the La Gloria at Brooks to come here, the very first local high-end restaurant to come to the Brooks campus. And I am having a competition with my boss to see who goes to Guadalajara to taste test some tequilas. With Johnny, of course, and so maybe the councilwoman actually beats us that neither of us go and we're sending the councilwoman. What would you say, aside from La Gloria, because he's getting a lot of love, is your favorite restaurant to enjoy across the city of San Antonio? Councilwoman Phyllis Viagran, we'll start with you.
Don Pedro's. And that's on the other side of Military Drive, closer to the mall. Fortunately, it's still in my district, but borders District 4. Just a long-time institution here, so that's one of my places.
My District 4 restaurant is Tripoli's Mediterranean, but I spend a lot of time downtown. So Botanero, Fruteria Botanero, another Chef Johnny restaurant, has a name drinked after me called La Rocha. It's tequila. If you hadn't guessed what it had, yes, it has tequila, and that's my favorite spot.
That's a really difficult question because it depends on my mood and what kind of taco or sopa I want. Because if I want a good carne asada, I'll go to Café Don Juan. If I want a good chalupa, I'll go to El Chilequil. We also have El Fruteria in District 5 from Chef Johnny Hernandez, which is really good. So if I want a good drink with my meal, I'll go to El Fruteria. So it's very difficult to pick one because it just depends on my mood, what kind of taco, what kind of soup. And then that will determine the ranking of my favorite restaurants in the district.
That's great. Thank you, ladies. So I hope you've enjoyed getting a little bit more, getting to know them a little bit more as the human beings that shop, do trivia night, travel, and then do a very good job of, again, mixing work and play. But then at the end of the day, they're always focused on San Antonio. And so we're just coming off a very busy time period with the bond. The bond was approved by voters. Thank you, voters. And it wasn't easy. Y'all went through countless meetings. Y'all went through countless community meetings, appointing different residents and members from your community. Now it's passed, and now it's time to execute. And so what would you say is the biggest thing that we need to focus on as far as making sure that everything was included in the city bond proposition starts moving forward and moves forward quickly?
So I think the bond, we got a lot of what we needed to get done. Of course, I'm going to say that the priority is going to be the new substation here in District 3, because as we look towards the future, as we look towards public safety, our buildings need to be innovative, they need to be new, and they need to be able to meet the community's needs. So that's one of the priorities. I think what the struggle we're having is the inflation and the cost. So we're moving in a direction that we need to keep that in consideration as we move forward with the bond and the projects that go first, and then the projects that are year 3, 4, or 5. I think the other thing we need to prioritize, and I think my council colleagues will agree, is our move on housing. And we did something monumental there. We've pushed forward the RFPs for the first round. And we really need to make sure that we're moving in keeping our housing stock affordable with our rehab programs, and then also looking at permanent supportive housing and as well as new builds as we move forward. So I think those are going to be our priority. Those are my priorities, to see that we move first on those. We have an incredible public works that is going to give us the list of streets and drainage projects and other infrastructure projects that they feel can get done in a certain order. So those are my two focuses.
Councilwoman Garcia, a slightly different question. Being a part of the bond, what were your key takeaways of the process that we were able to achieve leading up to not only the election, but now how we're getting prepared to execute the bond?
Well, I was very excited because we were able to secure funding for housing, right? And so Councilwoman Viagran mentioned that, and that's important. We need permanent supportive housing, but we know that we have a housing crunch. There's not enough housing available for the number of people that are coming to San Antonio. There's not enough housing that's available for people who already live in San Antonio that's affordable. You all saw an Express News report last weekend where there's children sleeping on the floors at Sam Ministries on their little mats, and so that broke my heart because that morning we had a back-to-school supply drive, and all of these kids are in need. So we were giving away school supplies, and that afternoon I realized those kids at least have a home to stay. And the kids that are staying at Sam Ministries don't have a place to stay. So it just reminded me that we need to focus on that. And as a matter of fact, I'm putting together a focus group specifically of moms that are going to try to do something sooner, right, for the kids that are staying at Sam Ministries, that there's an overflow. But that gave me confidence in what the community said, right, that we needed to invest in this. I've been talking about the decade of the neighborhood. We had the decade of downtown. I think it was good, but we think, I think we need to invest in the decade of the neighborhood. That also includes options for folks that want to stay in their neighborhoods, in the neighborhoods that they grew up with when they were children. We need to make sure that our folks are able to age in place as well. And then I'm really particularly concerned about veterans. 61% of veterans nationwide can't afford housing. And we're Military City, USA, so I think that was a little bit different, that you all, as voters, said, yes, we need to focus on housing, and I'm looking forward to that because the way that I see it, this bond was phase 1, so 5 years of the decade of the neighborhood. We have to concentrate and do very well so that we can get a phase 2 and really have that decade of the neighborhood.
Thank you. And Councilwoman, in this role was your very first time being a part of this very intricate but important process. So talk a little about some of those takeaways being a part of the process on the other side.
Yes, so this was a lot, right? As a freshman council member, we're dealing with ARPA dollars, the bond, the budget, and this is all year 1. And as many of you all know, I represent the city's most economically poor city council district. But one thing, right, that I'm really excited to be up here with these two is that people forget that a part of District 5 is Southside, and people forget that. And when we were going through the bond conversations, District 5 was ranked at one of the bottom 3 to receive funding through the bond process, right? And I knew that we needed our fair share of investment. So through a lot of debate and disagreement, by the end of the bond conversation, District 5 nearly doubled the 2017 bond investment and secured more funding than any other city council district. And, again, recognizing that that's not how we started in the process, but understanding how we need to make these investments to support the entire District 5 ecosystem, from the west side to the south side, our small businesses to our homeowners and renters, making sure that we're making those infrastructure improvements that are going to drastically and materially impact the quality of life for my constituents was something that we kept at the forefront. And ultimately, we secured a large chunk of funding. We didn't have any drainage funding, and we got over $25 million for drainage. And one thing I want to point to that is that in 2017, we got $0 for drainage. And one of the projects is on the south side of the district, right? And when talking to constituents, they're like, since we're at the border and with redistricting, we feel like we always get left out. And I said, well, redistricting, I don't know what's going to happen, but, we need a drainage project on Wilcox, right? And it's right next to the port. And so we advocated for additional drainage, and the south side of the district got a drainage project. So it was a great experience, learned a lot, and I'm ready for the next one.
Awesome, great work, a lot of research, a lot of late nights, I'm sure, and a lot of different conversations that led to a well-balanced budget, in my opinion, or a bond, in my opinion. And so that wrapped up in May. no time off, now we're ready for budget. No big deal, you don't need time off. And so as we prepare for a lot of those presentations, staff is wrapping up and already having those discussions with you all to support this upcoming budget. What should we be looking for? We'll start with you, Councilwoman Castillo.
Yes, so what's really exciting about the budget conversation is understanding and seeing the perspective and priorities of my colleagues, because District 5, right, is unique, but so is each and every one of our districts. So it's been a great process to learn what different folks' priorities are and seeing where there's consensus, right? Ultimately, right, streets, drainage, and sidewalks are a huge priority, not just for District 5, but again, right, how can we become a more walkable and resilient city by making these investments in these basic needs, like sidewalks, right? We have a very cute corridor in the Quintana neighborhood right next to the port. We have the Guadalupe, the Cultural Arts Hub, right? But how can we make it safe and accessible for folks to go visit these businesses, for folks to go to these art studios and nonprofit organizations? So continuing to center street, sidewalks, and drainage will continue to be a priority for us.
Okay, as another tool aside from the bond, again, this is another funding opportunity, but very focused on priorities. What are your priorities for the budget?
So definitely infrastructure is important to my residents, and so they call about potholes and they call about sidewalks, et cetera, right? So yes, absolutely, we're listening. We also have quality of life issues, right? So we've been left behind far too long, and so residents in the southwestern part of San Antonio want to see improvements in their neighborhoods through parks. Additional resources, I think, are going to continue to be important, but small businesses are very important also in District 4. District 4 was left behind with small business resources. They were the ones that got the least amount of PPP. They were the ones that got the least amount of the PPP loans. The PPE, they couldn't come get it because they couldn't stop working. They were literally working through the pandemic. And so it was important for me to focus on that. One of the things that was missing was support from the ecosystem, for the ecosystem in our presented budget. So August the 31st, I encourage all of you to come and advocate and help me so that the city manager will make an adjustment to our budget to support the small business ecosystem, because we were told that we would fund it through a budget and through our annual budget without using ARPA funding, when ARPA funding was rededicated to something else, which was also business related, so I'm fine with it. But we were told that it would be in our annual budget, and it's not. So I intend to bring that up again on August 31st. Again, I encourage you all to come out, write your letters of support if you can't attend, but I do think that we need to continue focusing and investing in our small business ecosystem. So that's another one of the priorities, again, in addition to the street repairs, the drainage, et cetera, that I feel should be the bread and butter of our budget.
Councilwoman Viagran, what are your priorities for the upcoming budget?
So my priorities are very similar to my council colleagues, but what I want to share with you is how important this budget is. We are coming out of a pandemic with over a $3 billion budget. Your city manager, your city council, and the previous city council was thoughtful so that we are in this position where we are able to prioritize compensation for city employees. This is monumental, and I mentioned it when we first started one of our budget work sessions, is that we need to get this right, because businesses around the city are looking at how we lead as an employer, because the city of San Antonio is one of the, if we're not the largest, which I don't think we are a leading employer. And so this is amazing, and I watched the budget meetings during the pandemic, which were heartbreaking, and Visit San Antonio can speak to that because their industry got gutted. Many others were there too. So this is a monumental occasion, and we have the priorities that we have, but I think the one priority coming out for me is that we create a policy for our excess funds that we get. We have been conservative, the city has been conservative up until now in their estimates for the monies that we're going to get from our utilities, and this is why we are over $75 million. So we need to look at making those, we need to increase that, understanding that CPS is going to continue to make us more money, and we're going to be able to take that money, possibly lower property taxes until the state catches up with what we're doing, and really make an impact for this community. And I think you should all be proud that you're here in San Antonio, because they've done such a good job. And we're trying to be thoughtful with our priorities, but we need to make sure that we understand our needs and we balance them. And that's what we're trying to do now. So we have heard, I don't know how many departments present so far. Public safety went this week, HR, Metro Health, and we need the community and the businesses to come together and say, we agree with these priorities, because we can do infrastructure all day, and that was one thing. When they said we had $50 million in excess, I was like, what are we gonna do, put it to F Streets? And of course, they're looking at giving a credit back to ratepayers. And if you are interested in that credit, please send emails to all of our office saying, I want the credit. If you would like to see something else, like the ecosystem or more infrastructure, please send us an email that you would like to see that, because we need to hear from you at this point. But my priority is, after this budget, is coming with a policy with what we do with our excess funds, and where we prioritize them for that year.
I'm so sorry, I forgot to add something. And so I really think that you all can help the three of us, because the three of us right now are without a homelessness resource coordinator. That means that the entire southern half of San Antonio is without resources for our homelessness. And we all know the issues that we've been having. And so I have spoken on this. I have gone publicly to the media and commented about it, because it's very unfair. And District 5 just lost, I think, recently, their homelessness coordinator. But Districts 3 and 4, which are the largest in terms of land, I've been without a homelessness coordinator for 6 months. And I've been sharing homelessness coordinator with D3. So again, two largest parts of San Antonio sharing a homelessness resource coordinator. And then, by the way, he submitted his resignation. So what I'm telling you is that the entire southern side, or southern half of the city, has no homelessness resource coordinator. So as small business owners, please help us advocate. Please send emails. Please encourage for those positions to be filled, because we want to make sure that we're on top of issues, etc. But if we don't even have a staff member dedicated, unless the three of us step off of city council and go and literally drive around all of our neighborhoods every single day, or assign one of our staff members, we would not be able to do it. So I just had to add that as a plug.
Another popular issue, who is hiring in the audience? Hiring, have roles to fill, a lot of us. And so we know that it's not a San Antonio issue, we know that it's a national issue, but we have significant employers, Toyota, Navistar, Mission Trail Baptist Hospital, with hundreds and hundreds of employees that they're hiring. In November 21, we passed for a percentage of the sales tax to go to Ready to Work, which now has launched and now has many more applications than they anticipated. A bit of a lightning round. What do you continue to see is the biggest challenge in the space of workforce training, and specifically with the Ready to Work program?
Yes, so with Ready to Work, one thing that our office has been following is how it can run parallel to the Office of Historic Preservation, and recognizing that we are in a housing crisis, right? And how can we run those two together? And different cities throughout the nation are doing it, and we are seeing traces of it with our Ready to Work hiring employers, right? So for example, J.R. Ramon is in the top 10 employers to hire with Ready to Work, right? And he works around demolition and deconstruction. He's supportive of deconstruction. So what we're seeing is an opportunity to create more jobs to address the housing crisis, right? But that's one sector. So I think what we should continue to do is ensure that folks are provided that support. One thing I've heard about Ready to Work, I've heard a critique, right? Like, how is this really supporting the small business owners? But I think there's opportunity for us to have those continued conversations, right, on what does that support look like that they need, right? We had a small business fair last week, and many of our business owners just aren't aware of the resources that are available. They're concerned that there's a fee. And we're like, no, you can commit, and there's large city resource fairs or job fairs to connect you to employees. So we're coming across a lot of businesses who are in the same position, struggling to hire individuals. And one thing that I learned from a District 5 business owner that he found successful was hiring on the spot, right? Because when he found that he was taking some time to interview individuals, folks were getting so many different offers at so many different competitive wages that they wouldn't commit. So making that on-the-spot offer, he was catching more workers that way. So that's what we've seen and what I've heard has been successful for my small businesses.
I think it's definitely the bureaucracy of training and education. And so, I work in the educational field, so I understand how long it takes to set up courses, how long it takes to train, and I work for Project Quest as well, so they're doing a stellar job, by the way, but it takes a really long time, and my residents are 1 minute away from losing hope. So if they have to wait an additional week for a class to make or to start, they're pulling out. They're going to try to find jobs elsewhere, and I think that's the biggest deficiency in the Ready to Work program. I talked about it 2 years ago when we were talking about this, and I was very specific, and I said these educational systems need to realize that they need to move like this, right? People can't wait, and especially when there's all eyes on us, right? You all approved this Ready to Work program, you expect it to work, and you expect it to work fast.
So I think Ready to Work is innovative. I think it's what we needed. I think years ago, historically, when we had opportunity to bring aviation jobs down to San Antonio, more technical jobs to San Antonio, the people running the city then did a pass on that. You know, why do more significant welding classes when we can just do the basic and they'll make this? So I appreciate what Ready to Work is doing. I think the one thing or one challenge is collectively we are coming out of this pandemic, and there is so much mental health stress and just difficulty that those soft skills on how you manage not being offended and not just wanting to throw your hands up and give up is kind of what we need to continue to address. And what I've been stressing is we need to partner with our agencies that are out there that want to help as people come out of this crisis with this trauma, because we are going to have trauma from doing this. We've all experienced some loss and how they get into that work and to that job and be successful. And then you as an employer, when you employ that person from Ready to Work or wherever, understanding the trauma and the mental stress that they may be dealing with coming out, because we haven't even begun to share our stories of what this pandemic has caused and what loss it has left us. So I think that's one of the things we need to continue, and why we're focusing also on the city on mental health and wellness and just making sure people come out and feel good about being out of this pandemic.
So without a doubt, we have our challenges, we have our issues, and we have amazing leadership to be able to address those. But without a doubt, San Antonio is on the rise because of leadership like them. So please give them a round of applause for joining us today.